Mayor and the City Council would like to present you with a resolution and a gift of thank you for showing such compassion and creating positive changes in the lives of the older adults in Orange County. Your benevolence adds great value to the community, and the City of Garden Grove wishes you the best in your future endeavors, and congratulations on being Woman of the Year.
Thank you.
It gives me great pleasure to present this to you because I, as well as the rest of the council, know how much dedication, how much heart, how much everything you put into doing what you do. It's not a job, it's a way of life, and you do a great job, and we certainly thank you for it. Now, if you'll turn around and you get your picture taken, you can make a great dartboard out of this with us. And if you'd like to say a few words, please.
I just want to thank you for this honor, and I certainly want to thank the City of Garden Grove, the City Council, and the staff members who have really, truly supported your senior citizens in this community and made my job easier as a result of it. Acacia has gone far, but it's been because of the support of the city that really shows true empathy for its seniors, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll now open oral communications for the council, the agency, and the sanitary district. David Ville.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Again, I'm here for the same thing, and I will probably continue to be here because I represent our Garden Grove chapter of AARP, and this bears repeating. Nationally, we have 40 million members and there are several hundred living that belong to the national but do not belong to our chapter that live right here in Garden Grove. Our chapter is run by an elected 16-member board, and they are the ones that determine what we are to do, and they are the ones that set up the programs for us every month. Right now, we have a tax preparer that helps our seniors that are having difficulty with their taxes, where they can come here and get free tax help. You know, life is really not that fair for a lot of our seniors as they age, and the important thing with this fireworks, you know, that when people see other people losing their homes, they always think, well, there's somebody else. And I know that in the very beginning, when I first came to this chapter about 12 or 15 years ago, that the fireworks issue was not a big issue with the members. And still, 60% of our members, I would say, do not live in what they call these war zone areas. The war zone areas are the ones that we are concerned about, and eventually this has taken momentum in our chapter, and now we have 100% of our chapter now that feels that something should be done to protect our seniors, because our seniors are the ones that are hurting. And like I say, that life is not fair to everyone, you know. So far I've been very fortunate to get to where I am. I have not had any health problems, and I look at some of our members that do have serious health problems, and this is why I'm here. These are things that concern me and concern our members that do not live in these war zones. Like I said in the very beginning, we didn't have the problem that we have now, but since the population is increasing and other cities don't allow fireworks, they come here, and now they are infringing on the people that in the beginning were for fireworks, that are not for fireworks now, because they see what can happen. And I think that this is why I am here. Like I said before, those of you that are up there, myself, and I would say that 60% of our members really are not affected, regardless of what happens with fireworks. But the fact that the city has grown and people have come in. And like I said before, all of this used to be orange groves out here. With there wasn't any difficulty until the population started increasing. And as you saw in the paper not too long ago, that they found these people setting up these fireworks, and they were developing mortars and everything else with high explosives. You know, things are going to get worse, and things are going to change. And I know that eventually this city, along with all the other cities that have banned them, are going to eventually ban them, because it's just going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But meanwhile, we have these seniors that are suffering every 4th of July, and they think about this the whole year. I mean, this bothers them not on the 4th of July. It bothers them long before, because they are anticipating what's going to happen. And the only thing I can tell our seniors right now, that just hang in there, and we're going to do what we can to try to do something about these fireworks. And I don't know what, but I do feel that this city council, they should have long time ago had some kind of a task force like Janet Wynn had recommended, but no one seemed to follow. And let everyone come over and talk about all the pros and cons, and get all this stuff off of our minds. You know, let's find out if there is a solution, because if we put our minds together, I think eventually that we can work something out. I believe that something can be worked out, and we can find some common ground regarding these fireworks. I want to thank you for your time, and hopefully something eventually will come of this. I know that eventually something is going to happen. I know eventually that they are going to be outlawed, simply because the public is going to demand it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other cards, so is there anyone else who would like to speak? Okay, I'm going to close oral communications, and we'll go to the agency.
Ready for that. That happened way too fast. Okay, we'll go to the regular agency, City of Garden Grove. Already had oral communications. We'll go to consent items. Anything else?
Move approval.
Second.
Call the vote.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
We have no public hearings. We have no items for consideration. Any matters from agency members or directors? Hearing none, at this time, we will adjourn until the next week.
Okay,
I
we'll.
have one item on the agency. In the minutes, there was a discussion about a waiver of conflicts of interest from a prior attorney. I'm looking at the minutes. It says it was moved that the matter be continued to the February 26, 2008 meeting, and the matter's not on the agenda. Is there something going on with that?
There may be that the attorney who was being requesting this may not be able to represent that party after all. So either we can report back through a manager's memo that the request has been withdrawn, if that's how it ends up. So that may be the case.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to the Sanitary District Board. Let the record show that all members are present. Okay, consent items.
Move we approve.
Second.
Okay, call for the vote. Okay, matters from board members.
I'm sorry I erased it before
Oh.
Councilmember Jones could vote. So if everyone could please revote. Mr. Mayor. Motion received, 5 yes votes.
Okay. Any matters from members? Okay, I'd like to mention that tomorrow night, the Orange County Sanitation District is having its meeting, and at that meeting, one of the agenda items is going to be to increase the fees for the Orange County Sanitation District about 10% a year for 5 consecutive years. I can tell you that I will be voting against that. I think I'm in the minority of the people that aren't voting against it, and I strongly urge people to come out and support it. It's been mentioned before. Charles Mitchell mentioned it also at a couple of meetings. It's at 10844 Ellis Street in Fountain Valley, and the Sanitation District meeting starts at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Okay.
we'll go ahead and adjourn the sanitation district meeting. We'll reconvene the council. Consent items.
Before we take action on the consent calendar, I just want to request that item 6F be pulled and be brought back at a later date.
Okay.
And then it's recommended that the balance of the items be acted on simultaneously unless a separate discussion or action is requested by a council member.
Move the balance.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
Okay, next item are public hearings, and I'm going to recuse myself because there's a conflict that I have.
Okay, this is item 7A, Plan Unit Development, number PUD-120-07. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Susan Emery will give the staff report on this item.
Good evening, Council. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. Mayor's not here. City Council. The property is about an acre. It's an improved lot with about 3,200 square feet of auto body building and detached accessory structures. There's some plans up on the wall that we'll be referencing. The property owner proposes to construct a new project that will consist of 5,400 square feet of an auto body building, which will have an office and a second floor storage room, a new 4,000 square foot building that will consist of 4 individual tenant spaces, and a new 1,100 square foot wash bay. The existing auto body shop building will continue to remain on the property while the detached accessory structures will be removed. The site will be accessed from 2 drive approaches on Nelson Street. The northernmost drive aisle will function as the main entrance to the site. A total of 47 parking spaces will be provided to accommodate the proposed uses, and the primary customer parking area is at the northern portion of the lot, adjacent to the main entrance. The project provides architectural detailing along the street elevation and ample landscaping along Nelson Street and Stanford Avenue setbacks to enhance the street appearance. The design of the project is compatible with the newer surrounding developments and will enhance the appearance of the street corner. The project will be rezoned, there's currently a PUD there, to a new PUD 120-07. And also there was a variance approved or required on the approval to deviate from the minimum 5-acre lot size for a PUD. Also, there's a development agreement with the property owner, and in exchange for approval of the development agreement, the city will receive a payment of $16,077. Staff recommends that the City Council adopt the negative declaration for Plan Unit Development 120-07 and introduce the ordinances for first reading, which I will read into the record. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove approving Plan Unit Development Number PUD-120-07, changing the zoning designation from Plan Unit Development Number PUD-103-78 to Plan Unit Development Number PUD-120-07, and an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove adopting a development agreement between Ronald Pierce and the City of Garden Grove. And that concludes my staff report, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments for staff? All right, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody, do you want to speak? Mr. Pierce?
I can answer any questions if anybody has.
Would anyone like to hear him speak?
I've never heard him speak before. I mean,
He can come up and do the Star Spangled Banner.
I'm right now working with Orange County Transit on getting extra parking that I'm not even required, but I've been working with them on that because I do believe in having plenty of parking too. And as you've known over the years what I've been working with, this will really add to a lot of room. And it'll add in, I've got 4 other businesses that want to come in. This is going to be an automotive center. And the city, I don't think, offers anywhere where we'll have a detail shop, repair shop, muffler shop, and an upholstery shop with the body shop. So it'll be almost a one-stop for anybody that's getting repairs done. And that's something I'm trying to offer the city of Garden Grove and to improve the area too.
Okay, great. Any questions?
Just out of curiosity, why is this going as a plan unit development as opposed to just a
Well, it was a PUD before, and I think doing the commercial and everything on it, that's why it's remaining a PUD. So,
why it was before? Just because the house was there?
it might have been. It was built in 1978. Another shop was approved at that time at the northern side. On the northern side, which was never built. So now I'm planning on doing everything. So.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, Dina? Councilwoman Nguyen?
Why not add a car wash too, to make it complete?
There will be a detail shop.
Okay. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Peggy.
Well, I'm actually coming up to say something positive.
I'm sorry, state your name for the record.
Peggy Bergen. But yes, the very last time my husband and I took our truck out, we had one of these unavoidable accidents, and the whole back end of his truck was kind of demolished. And we took it to this fine establishment. We had speed. We had everything you'd want. They kept you, they kept telling you exactly where your car was in their process, so you never had to feel that, maybe someone had taken the car and taken it to Mexico or something. But every single thing about it was a very positive from the first time we walked in until we picked it up. And they gave wonderful pens away. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to address the council? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Colleagues, what's your preference?
I move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
All right, moved by Nguyen, seconded by Jones. Any further comments?
Call for the vote.
Please vote.
Motion received, 4 yes votes with Mayor Dalton being absent.
Okay. It's approved.
Bill committee.
Did we, Matt, there's a 7A1 and an A2 that are ordinances also.
Yeah, I just checked. One action.
Okay. Okay.
Vote.
We don't need to read them?
Yeah, Susan did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, we learned. Eventually. Finally got it
cool.
done.
Good.
All right, here's Mayor Dalton, who woke up.
Oh, okay.
You guys are too late for public comments.
Okay. All right, we're at committee matters.
8A.
Did you do that, 8A, the letter of resignation?
So you just accept the letter.
Okay.
Yeah, I move we accept it, and I hope that we will be searching diligently to replace him. Charles has been a good guy for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You need a motion for that, or just just receive and file? It's just a receiving. Okay. Okay, items for... Okay, go
I'll
ahead.
move that we accept with regret.
Second. Call for the vote. Items for consideration.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
9A, Mr. Mayor, is a resolution of intention amending our CalPERS contract, allowing employees to purchase...
Excuse me.
I didn't know. I just had to drop that off.
allowing employees to purchase PERS credit with their time in the U.S. Armed Services. And John Clark is here to give a staff report on this.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, this is the same item back for the third try, and I think we got it right. So same proposal, just getting the correct information from PERS. This would allow employees at their own expense to buy back their military time.
Thanks. Any question for staff?
I'll move approval.
Okay, have a motion?
Second.
Call for the vote.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. That's ordinance of the City Council of the City of Garden Grove adopting amendment to the contract between the City of Garden Grove and the Board of Administration of the California Public Employees Retirement System to provide military service credit as public service credit.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
9B.
9B, Mr. Mayor, is the initiation of proceedings to vacate a part of Brookhurst Way in conjunction with a proposed project. And Susan Emery, you can give a brief staff report on this item.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on January 17th, the Planning Commission approved Site Plan 436-08 and Variance 16908 for the construction of an approximately 3,900 square foot multi-tenant commercial building with a drive-through proposed coffee shop on a vacant lot, which is located on the north side of Stamford with street frontage along Brookhurst Way and Brookhurst Street. The request also included a proposal to vacate the easterly portion of Brookhurst Way right-of-way. Along with approving the site plan and the variance entitlements, the Planning Commission also made the finding that the vacation of the easterly portion of Brookhurst right-of-way north of Stamford is consistent with the city's general plan. The proposed street vacation will allow the easterly portion of Brookhurst Way to revert back to the property owner of the adjoining vacant site and provide the needed land area to create a site that is more conducive for the proposed development. The easterly portion of Brookhurst Way is not needed for access for the subject site or to the homes located to the west. And after the vacation, adequate access to the existing homes and subject site will still remain. Staff is recommending that the City Council set a public hearing date for March 25th, 2008, in order to conduct the public hearing regarding the vacation of the portion of Brookhurst Way. And I'm happy to answer your questions.
Any questions for staff?
All this does is set a public hearing.
That's correct.
Now, is there something else that's going to be on calendar for March 25th related to this?
The only action that had required council approval was the street vacation. Is a site plan application with a no development agreement because it was only 3,900 square feet.
The street is being vacated. What does that mean? Who's getting that part of the street?
The property, the new property owner, or the
Is that conditioned upon the property owner actually building the business there?
It's a condition of the project that in order for him to build the project, he's going to need the street vacation.
No, but in order to get the street vacation, does he need to build the project?
I don't know. I can check into that for you. I'm
That's
thinking
something
that's
I'd like
the way.
to know for the hearing.
Okay, we
Because
can
what
have
if,
that.
otherwise we're giving him a strip of land and he's not doing anything, and that's just giving land away.
I'll check into that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I'll move approval to set the hearing.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
Motion received, 5 yes votes.
9C.
9C, Mr. Mayor, we have the opportunity to provide the City Council a snapshot of our mid-year budget, as well as a summary of how we ended the previous fiscal year. So I'm pleased to have our Finance Director, Kingsley Okereke, give you the good financial news. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. I have for you tonight 3 financial updates. One, I'd like to share with you the results of last year's performance, that is fiscal year 2006-2007. I will also next give you a heads-up update on current fiscal year, how we are doing so far in terms of our revenues, how they are coming in, and our expenditures, what we have as of December 31st, 2007. And then finally, a look ahead to next year. We'll highlight for you some of the issues that we are tracking and a general framework and timelines for preparing and presenting next year's budget. I would like to emphasize, of course, that this is purely for your information tonight. You are not being asked to make any decisions today, or tonight, actually. However, it is important that we review this information with you as we, staff, and you begin to consider and prepare for next year's budget. Last year was really another good year for the city of Garden Grove. The year has been closed, and all the accounting records has been audited, and we do have a clean opinion from the auditors. And we have also compiled and distributed all the necessary financial reports. In terms of revenue realized last year, we did receive revenue approximately $6 million over our budget, which is good. Out of that, approximately $2 million is one-time revenue that came in, and the bulk of that came in from land sales. We also realized approximately $2 million in expenditure savings. That's essentially meaning that we did not spend all of the money that was budgeted last year, and bulk of that $2 million came from salary savings. The results. I'd like to also point out that last year we began to fund the rainy day fund for the city, the contingency reserve. And we did manage to set aside $2 million in that fund. We also set aside $500,000 in our GASB 45 reserve fund, and that is the retiree medical fund. I already pointed out that we did receive a clean opinion last year, and with all of that, all said and done, we did realize a general fund end-of-year balance of $23.5 million, which is quite nice to have. Now, focusing on the revenue, again, just to give you a sense of all of our major revenue categories and how they came in last year. Sales tax, the biggest revenue source, came in below budget, and we believe this is largely as a result of the sluggish economy and the real estate issues that we have experienced over the past couple of years. Specifically speaking, within the city, we've noticed a decline in auto sales and other major item sales within the city. So sales tax is something that we are watching very closely. We do believe that we probably will see further decline in the current fiscal year and perhaps even next year. But again, we will continue to monitor that closely and report any changes as we see them. But the good news, on the other hand, is that property tax, that came in at approximately $1.5 million over budget, and more than made up for the decline in sales tax. We expect property tax to remain solid, given the underlying stable property tax base in the city. The city is largely built out. I don't believe we have any new swaths of land to develop or that will add to the property tax base. However, we believe that much of the growth, if any, in property tax will come from revaluations stemming from resales or redevelopments of existing stock. So our property tax is pretty much stable. Our motor vehicle tax is a good one also. We did realize about $2.7 million in excess of what we budgeted. That's really because the state, beginning the year before, are beginning to make up for the past years where they took away VLF from cities. And we hope that this will continue. As you know, the state is still struggling with some budget deficits, and we are watching that. We don't know what will happen. But at this point, there is nothing that they are proposing. There's nothing in there as proposed to use motor vehicle tax to balance their budget. So we hope this revenue source will continue at this level. Hotel tax. Hotel tax, that's really a big source of revenue, has become a big source of revenue for the city. The hotels continue to do brisk business, irrespective of the slowing economy. Hotel tax revenues generated by these hotels were about $12 million in last year, and this is a 7% growth over the previous year. This is our fastest growing revenue source. Just to put it in perspective, if you look at the 12 million generated last year versus what it was in fiscal year 02-03, it's more than double. In fiscal year 2002-2003, the total realized hotel tax was $5.8 million. So that's quite a significant jump over a 4- or 5-year period. We also had good performance in the building permit-related fees. However, that particular fee, given the current situation of the economy and the real estate market, we do not anticipate realizing this level of revenue going forward. The other one I'd like to point out is interest. Interest, last year it was a big source of revenue. But again, there have been major reductions in interest rates recently by the Feds. And most of the instruments that we invest in, which are largely treasury bills and government-backed securities, tend to track with the Fed rates. And we are expecting some decline in that revenue source. Again, we had one-time line sales that gave us about $1.7 million, actually almost $800 more than we were expecting. So that's good. Moving on to the expenditure side, just to point out that our total expenditures are about $87 million that was budgeted. We ended up spending about $85.7 with a savings of about $2.1 million in expenditure savings. So last year, again, is a good year for the city, and with that, I'd like to move on to the current fiscal year 07-08. Now, in view of the good financial results from the previous year, and based on the current year-to-date accounting information we have so far, expenditures and revenue, the way we are tracking them as of December 31st, revenues are coming in as expected. Again, we do expect some decline in sales tax. But given the way things are going, I feel very comfortable, staff feels very comfortable that the current year budget will be executed as planned and approved by council. We are not anticipating any major expenditure overruns at the fund level. In fact, we are projecting to realize a salary savings of about $1 million in the current fiscal year. This is much less than the $2 million we realized the previous year, but nonetheless, that's a reasonable savings. On the revenue side, again, in terms of totals, in terms of overall, we're not expecting any major change. There will be some decline in sales tax, but again, we are hoping and we expect that those declines will be offset by the expected increases in property tax and hotel tax. In terms of our reserves, we are not expecting to draw down on any of our reserves. In fact, we fully expect to fund all of the contingency reserve of $1 million that was approved in the budget. We also fully expect to fund the additional $500,000 that will go into the Gatsby Reserve Fund, making it a total of $1 million in that Gatsby Reserve Fund. And for the contingency reserve, once we do the $1 million, we will have a total of $3 million in the contingency reserve fund. Now, when all is said and done, at this point in time, we expect to end the year with a positive year-end fund balance of approximately $9.24 million. As we get closer to the end of the year, sometime in May or June, we will come to you with a plan for next year's budget, and at that time, we will definitely have a more updated number, and perhaps a better number than the $9.4 million that we are currently projecting. And by comparison, as you can see there, when we adopted the budget in June actually, for the fiscal year beginning July, we estimated $3.5 million. So that's quite an improvement over that. Now, looking ahead to next year, it is becoming increasingly doubtful, at least from the news and the statistics that we are watching, that it would be hard for the country to skate by without sinking into a recession within the next 6 months to perhaps even 9 months. As we plan and go into the next year budget, we are fully mindful of that. and with the realization that our revenue will not continue to grow and, in fact, may decline. We are going in, with some serious restraint and expectation to contain the city expenditure growth. Inflation is a big concern, and recently it's widespread, and recent information that we're getting from our CPI numbers are beginning to reflect and confirm that costs are rising for all goods. Rising prices, as I've said before, does not bode well for the city budget at all. With the current base budget for basic services in the current fiscal year of approximately $91 million, rising prices, increasing COLA, cost of living adjustment, can grow the budget in a significant way without even adding any new services or staff. So that's something that we are watching very closely. The general downturn in the economy is a big issue. This will probably lead to higher unemployment, less disposable income, and will in fact affect consumer confidence. The bottom line is folks are not buying. People are not buying the cars. People are not buying big items, those things that generate sales tax. And that really explains why the sales tax have declined last year and will continue to decline, in our opinion, this year and perhaps even next year. Another major concern that we have is what's happening in Sacramento. The state of affairs at the state level and the decisions they make to balance their budget is always a source of stress for cities like ours. We are watching very closely on how the state resolves its $14 to $16 billion budget deficit, and that number keeps changing depending on who you talk to. What we know so far are two measures that have been signed by the governor that's now in effect. One of them is that there will be a delay when we receive a highway user tax. The proposal that was recently signed by the governor proposes to delay our highway user tax that we should have received from April through August to September. Essentially, there will be a 5-month delay before we get that money. And just to put it in perspective, in the current fiscal year, we've relied on this source of revenue to the tune of $760,000 to balance our budget. The other item that we know that's been signed and in effect today is that the elimination of estimated mandate payments. We used to be able to file and receive payments on mandates based on estimates. Now we have to incur the expenditures and then get reimbursed much later. Bottom line, both of these measures will not really have much impact on the city as long as we eventually receive the monies as currently promised. There are other proposed but unresolved balancing measures in the state budget that will impact the city. We will continue to monitor those, and as we know them, we will report to you. Now, with regards to city framework, as we develop next year's budget, staff is keeping in mind the council-approved vision and guiding principles. As you know, next year's budget will be the third year of implementing the strategic plan. As we have done in the past, the strategic plan will be prepared and considered separately. We will have a two-pronged approach, the strategic plan and the base budget. Also, I'd like to just emphasize again that the annual budget is usually a lean budget based strongly on the city's philosophy, and I quote, living within our means. And we will be presenting to you a budget that meets that test. The manager's directive to departments for preparing next year's budget proposal goes further than that, to emphasize restraining and containing general fund expenditure growth in light of the declining economic climate. One other thing is that we will continue to look at possibilities of increasing that contingency reserve, because that rainy day will come. As much as possible, if we can put some money into it, we will add it in the budget proposal that we'll present to you in June. Now, some bright spots. Unlike some other cities, Garden Grove is better positioned financially going into next fiscal year. We have a healthy beginning fund balance of currently projected at $9.4 million. And it is conceivable that that could increase when we come back to you in June as we get better numbers. We believe that revenues in total will remain relatively stable. If we see any decline at all, it will be very modest in total. With this outlook, we fully expect to present and adopt a balanced budget for next fiscal year. And again, we're not expecting to draw down any reserve. Instead, we will be looking to set aside more monies in our contingency reserve. And that's the presentation for general fund. Just a couple of highlights in terms of how we will approach the budget. Again, the base proposed budget will be considered separately, and the strategic plan will be a separate presentation. In terms of timeline, we are looking to come to you sometime in June 11 actually, with a budget package. And we are planning to schedule the budget hearing and approval night on June 24, 2008. Just a quick summary on the two enterprises that we have, the Garden Grove Water and the sewer. With respect to the water, the year we closed successfully. The revised rates really enhanced the financial results. And if you recall, in June, I reported to you that our bond coverage was in danger at the time. We have restored the necessary coverage and moving along. In terms of the current fiscal year, revenue is coming in as expected, and we do have available funds and continuing to do the approved system work. We are also working on issuing the approved bonds to make more funds available to the Public Works Group to continue that work on the system. And one of the things that we also beginning to restore is the council-approved business principles that sets aside some necessary reserves, contingency reserve, cash flow reserves in those enterprise funds. With regards to the sewer, the story is about the same. The rate adjustment really enhanced our results, and the work is being continued, both the capacity and structural work program. For the current fiscal year, again, we're looking at our revenue, and the trend is quite on track with what we projected. There's ample funds available for the approved system work, and again, we are beginning the initial work to issue the second series of the bonds approved by council to provide monies for the systems work. We are also beginning to set aside the necessary business principal reserves in that fund. And with that, that ends the presentation. I will be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any questions?
I think it was well done.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Okay, matters from council. Mr. Broadwater.
I really don't have anything. There was a city council that was attacked by a gunman, and several councilmen got shot up, and the mayor, I think, got killed. And I just would think that we maybe like to take a look at our own security. It's certainly nothing. We are insecure completely. And I just saw a young man come up here and drop a red car on his desk, which, I mean, there's no problem with a red card being put on his desk, but having somebody get that close without getting permission is really a step too far, in my opinion. So I'm thinking that in the world we live in and the crazies and stuff that are in the world, I think we need to somewhere take a look at enhancing our own security here. We don't have anything. Anybody could carry a gun, bring it in here. We don't have anything to keep that out, and I would feel bad to see anybody get hurt, and especially myself. And so I definitely think that we ought to put some thought into that.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen.
Yeah, I have a couple of items. No particular order. We received a letter from Doug's Downtown Grill, which is a new steakhouse on Main Street. And he made a point that another merchant on Main Street had made, that we have a farmer's market every Sunday on Main Street, and it started out as farmers markets typically do, selling fruits and vegetables. But now they have spread out into selling items which compete directly with merchants who are on Main Street, and Doug's Downtown Grill made the point that somebody was standing right in front of his establishment selling, I don't know what, meat of some sort, which competes directly with him. And so I'd like us to take a look at the farmers market. They have an unfair competitive advantage because they don't have to pay rent. For a permanent structure, I'm not sure if they pay any sales tax as opposed to the merchants on Main Street. So I'd like to have somebody look at that. The young man that Councilman Broadwater referred to who dumped a bunch of cards, I think he anticipated having about 20 people speak for public communications. However, we've improved ourselves on when we do public communications, and we already did it at the beginning of the meeting. So you guys are a little late, but about 30 people came in, a lot of them carrying skateboards. So I'm going to guess that they're here to support the Olympic-sized swimming pool, right? Well, how many of you are here in...
As long as it's empty, right?
How many of you are here in support of a skate park? Okay, a bunch of hands went up. About 30 hands went up. Okay. Now you've made your point. You don't have to speak. But anyway, and last Thursday or Friday night, I was over at the Regal Cinema, and there were a bunch of skateboarders there. So I spoke to them about a skate park, and a lot of them were in favor of it. They like the idea of Bixby and Brookhurst. So it's something we'll keep looking at. Were any of you guys the ones that I spoke to? Okay, good. The city manager's position, you know, we're supposed to evaluate the city manager annually, and last year we evaluated the city manager. I'm not sure if we gave him a raise or not, but in the meantime there was an article in the paper that Santa Ana gave their city manager a 15% raise, and it listed some of the other salaries that other executives, city managers, and running some of the regional organizations get, and I think we're below the curve. And so I had proposed in private that we talk about it in closed session, and then it occurred to me that right at the end of last year at OCTA, when we evaluated Art Leahy's contract, we weren't allowed to do it in closed session because the Brown Act had changed, so we had to actually talk about his performance in open session. And so I think I'd like to have the city attorney check to see whether we can do it in closed session or do it in open session.
Well, performance evaluations certainly take place in closed session. They do not take place in open session. The question is whether a contract adjustment which has a monetary figure attached to it would have to be separately discussed in open session.
Okay. Well, I think I'd like to discuss performance in closed session and then have some sort of performance enhancement in open session. Now, what they do at OCTA is they have a subcommittee. They have 3 members of the board who get together and make a recommendation to the full board. So I'm not going to move it, but I would suggest that we consider that. But that's something I'd like to tackle in the next couple of months. And then finally, since we met last, our former mayor and council member J. Tillman Williams has passed away. And prior to that, by a couple of months, Ray Luttrell passed away, and then within recent time, former Councilman Bob Dinson passed away, and they were all on the council in the 1980s, and they were all 3 of them very strong personalities, and I think they helped shape the city, but also they helped shape how this council acts in that they were all 3 of them were very independent thinkers. J. Tillman Williams came to our council meetings after he left office. He was on the school board for 4 years. He ran for Congress once. He ran for the state senate once. He was very outspoken about his opinions, as was Mr. Luttrell, as was Mr. Dinson. And one thing that they did, which has left a mark on this council, is that council from the 1980s was a council that supported not investing our public funds with the county investment pool, which paid off in 1994 when the county filed bankruptcy. And we were one of only 2 cities not to have invested in the county pool, and as a result, most of our investments were saved and not caught up in the bankruptcy. And that independent streak, I think, is carried over to city councils to the current day. We're the only city now which is not a member of the Orange County League of Cities, and we go our independent way on a lot of things. Mayor Dalton made reference to the fact that the Orange County Sanitary Board, or Sanitation Board, is meeting tomorrow night, and he's going to be one of the few members to vote against a rate increase. So, and that's part of the legacy of that group of council members from the 1980s. So I'm sorry to see J. Tillman Williams pass away, and I imagine we'll adjourn in his memory. Anyway, that's all I have for now.
Thank you. Ms. Nguyen.
I'd like to say happy birthday to Councilman Jones' wife, Manny. Have a happy birthday. And the young men were here probably at 5:30 this evening. They didn't know that they were supposed to be here. But next time, if you want to speak, you need to be in this room by 6:30 and ask the clerk to fill out a pink slip, and you'll be called to speak at around 6:30. And I'm still in support of the skate park, and the council is working very hard to try to find funds for that.
Thank you. Mr. Jones. Okay. Mr. Jones, do you have anything?
Yeah, I'd just like to wish my wife a very happy birthday. Can't believe she's 29 years old. And just
Excuse me, hold on for a second. Now, you really want all us to be in support of things, okay? There's certain rules. There's rules when you skateboard, and there's rules during a council meeting. If you find me out there skateboarding with you, I'll abide by your rules. But while you're in here, I expect you to abide by our rules, okay? Thank you. Go ahead.
That's pretty much it. And just wanted to thank all the guys here for taking time in the evening to come out and just show that you're in support of something in the city that could be a big deal. So.
Let's give an applause for hopefully Garden Grove will get it right and get us a skate park.
Okay, I also want to wish Steve's wife, Manny, a happy birthday. Again, I want to remind everyone that the Orange County Sanitation District meeting at 6:30 p.m. tomorrow night at 10844 Ellis Street, and a vote will be taken on a 10%-ish plus, perhaps, for 5 consecutive years. It's a minimum of 10% every year for the next 5 years. They just came off doing that for 5 years. I think that with the money that they have in reserves, I think they have enough that they could either spend some of that, or they could put projects off like cities have to do. When you don't have the revenue coming in that you want, you sometimes have to prioritize what projects are more important than others, and you're not able to do everything that you want in a timely manner. Mr. Broadwater.
I'd like you to state what they do have in reserves. I know that's a huge number.
Oh, it's in the millions. The millions.
It's in the 50 or 60 millions.
It's actually, I think the last time was about 78 million or so. Don't quote me on that, but it's up in that neighborhood.
I know.
And of course, the excuse is, well, what if there's a terrible catastrophe? Well, if there's a terrible catastrophe, we're all going to be in trouble. I also wanted to speak a little bit about J. Tillman Williams. He was very independent, but he had a sense that he wanted to serve publicly. He wanted to do things for the community, and he had his own way about him. And it was unique in some areas. But I think, as most people that are in public office at this level, you're in it not to make money, obviously, but you're in it because you really want to make your community better. You want to do something. You want to leave some kind of a mark, and that's for the generations to come. And although all of us have agreed and disagreed on one thing or another, I don't think we could take anything away from anybody that did want to serve and did want to accomplish things for the betterment of the city. So I will adjourn the council meeting in his memory. We'll adjourn till March 11th, 2008 at 5:30.
Wow.
Cool. I might actually.
Thank you for having us.
This is our town, our city. Garden Grove is our place in the sun. The ties that keep us together, that connect us, are what make a community. Residents took their destiny in their own hands when they crafted a community vision in 2000.